Sweet life, sweet life, sweet life.
Hi guys, welcome back. So today I'm going to be showing you tips on how to bake the perfect cake. So my first tip is that you need to start off with room temperature ingredients. I always make sure all my liquid, my eggs, my butter, everything is room temperature before I start baking. I just let my eggs and my butter sit out for like an hour before I get ready to bake, and then it's ready to go. Another tip is that I make sure to use real butter. I don't use any imitation butter or margarine or anything. I always use real butter. My next tip is to use good quality pans, and I like to use Fat Daddy-O's. I will link them below. I like these pans because they bake my cakes nice and even. My cakes always come out flat, and that's why I love using those pans. My next tip is that I use Baker's Joy to actually spray my pans with. You can also use goop or goo, I believe it's called, but I use Baker's Joy and it works out perfectly fine for me. So although this pan is pretty much good to go, I don't usually have much sticking. I do one extra step. I get these patty paper squares from Dollar Tree, and they are like individually cut squares of parchment paper, and I find that they fit perfectly in the bottom of an 8-inch pan. I showed you guys this before in my Dollar Tree haul. And I like to put those in the bottom of the pan just because, if you usually do have sticking, it usually is in the middle of your cake. So this prevents any sticking whatsoever. You can also buy the cake circles that are pre-cut, but these are cheaper. You get 100 of them for $1, and they work perfectly for me. So my next tip is that I make my own DIY cake strips to put around my pans, and Wilton actually sells some really good ones. But the way I discovered this tip is because I was out of town and I didn't have my cake strips with me. So I had to figure out a way to make a makeshift cake strip, and this is what I came up with. This is actually paper towel that is folded into four, and then I wet it to get it damp, not completely soaked with water, but damp. And then I place it around my pan, and then I just clip it together with a paper clip. Easy peasy. As you can see, I reuse these. This is coming off of a cake that was already baked. So I just take it off, I wet it again, and then I reuse them. I reuse them maybe like 3 or 4 times before I throw them away. Usually 1 week, I will use the same three strips that I make on all my cakes, and then I'll throw them away, and then the next week I'll make more. And if you're wondering why I use cake strips, it's because the moisture around the actual cake pan, it stops the sides and the bottom of the cake from browning quickly, and it allows your cakes to bake completely flat. You see how my cakes don't have a dome and they just bake completely flat. So using these cake strips help your cake to bake more evenly, and that's why this is one of my favorite cake tips to use. And like I said, you just take it off, you re-wet it. You don't get it completely soaking wet. You just want it damp. And then I just put it around the next pan and I secure it with a paper clip. My next tip is that I bake my cakes on 325 and not 350. I always adjust my recipe whenever I'm baking to 325 because I like to bake my cakes low and slow. And this is how I end up with perfectly moist, perfectly cooked cake. It doesn't brown, it's not dry. And you see when they come out, I use a toothpick to just check. And do you see how they're flat, no cracks, no browning, nothing. So the next tip is that while my cakes are still warm, I take them out of the pan and then I wrap them in cling wrap or saran wrap, whatever. And the reason why I do this is to lock the moisture in. If you were to just let your cakes sit out uncovered and not completely covered, they will dry out. As you can see, you see how easy it came out of the pan. You see that little parchment strip that we put on there. We're just going to take that off and look at that. It did not stick to the pan at all. Look at that color. Look how even. No browning. Look how soft and moist it is. No browning around the side. No dome. No cracks. Perfect. I told you, girl, I got the tips. Use these tips. You see my hand? That's from the butter, the melted butter that I put in that recipe. So use these tips. Your cake comes out perfect every single time. So yeah, we're doing the saran wrap and we're going to do 2 layers of the saran wrap. And like I say, I do it while the cake is warm, and that locks that moisture into the cake, and you'll have nice and moist soft cake. Like I said, we're wrapping these up until we're ready to decorate them. If you're not going to decorate them that same day, I put mine in the freezer. I actually always decorate my cakes frozen. So now that we've actually wrapped it up in the saran wrap, we've locked that moisture into the cake, and then I put it into the freezer, and it actually freezes it, like freezes that moisture in. So when it does come back down to room temperature, it is so soft, so moist, not dry at all. You don't have to use any simple syrup, any of that. So these are my favorite tips. As you can see, they all came out perfectly flat, perfectly red, no browning, no dome, no cracks, no nothing, girl. These are ready to go. So I just want to thank you guys for watching. Let me know if you have any additional questions below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.
Sweet, 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 sweet life.